Battlefield 5 is a tale of two games. The objective-based large-scale multiplayer battles the series is known for have absolutely never been better. Developer DICE has evolved Battlefield's familiar multiplayer formula in subtle yet meaningful ways, emphasizing teamwork, player classes, and squad play. Meanwhile, that frustrating rift between Battlefield's phenomenal multiplayer and its historically meager single-player modes continues to exist. Battlefield 5's single-player lacks coherence, direction, and self-awareness. Set during World War II, War Stories consists of a collection of short stories from different parts of the war. As was the case with 2016's Battlefield 1, each story deals with different unconnected characters and settings, offering up more unheard, unheralded perspectives of the Second World War. Besides Battlefield 5's stark contrast between single-player and multiplayer quality, what makes this review even trickier is the state of the game itself. Bugs are rampant in Battlefield 5, both multiplayer and single-player, micro-stuttering and freezing being the biggest culprits. It may be a little tough to see in footage, but severe micro-stuttering has made some parts of Battlefield 5, specifically the single-player, unplayable. Cutscenes stop and then fast forward to catch up with the audio, loading screens occasionally slow to a crawl, and there's a host of other strange, seemingly random technical issues that happen at a normal pace. I've been playing Battlefield 5 through Electronic Arts' new Origin Access Premier program, which is essentially EA's version of Xbox Game Pass. Paying $14.99 a month or $100 a year gives you full game access to numerous EA titles days before they officially release. The premiere release date for Battlefield 5 was Friday, November 9th. Battlefield 5's numerous technical issues got me to a point where I was wondering if EA's premiere was actually a form of early access, where games are released early but are a work in progress, meaning bugs and glitches are to be expected. The problem is, I can't find anywhere that says premiere is early access, and that consumers should expect for the games to be broken in places, which Battlefield 5 objectively is. If Premiere were clearly and transparently billed as an early access program, my review would reflect this. Indeed, I wouldn't even give Battlefield 5 a formal scored review until I played the final fixed version. But nothing I can find makes it clear that Premiere is early access, leading me to two assumptions. Either Premiere is early access, in which case EA has failed to make it clear to consumers that they should expect some games to be broken and unfinished, or Battlefield 5 is just plain broken in numerous areas. I've reached out to EA for clarification on this point, but as of recording, have yet to hear back. Without any clarification on EA's part, I can only assume Battlefield 5 exists in a state EA and DICE sees as appropriate for consumers to purchase, and therefore appropriate to review. What's even more, chunks of Battlefield 5 are not slated to release until 2019, including the Firestorm Battle Royale in Combined Arms co-op mode, and more. This continuous stream of content, which EA and DICE call Tides of War, is a side effect of the industry's infatuation with service-based gaming. Battlefield 5's lack of variety, partly due to so many modes and features being held for later release, is a self-inflicted wound. These features, while free for everyone, left to future releases in hopes of continued monetization, come at the cost of Battlefield 5's quality as a product now. Currently, Battlefield 5's War Stories includes 3 stories and an introduction, each, with the exception of the introduction, split into 3 acts. In each story, you play as a different character on a different front of the war at different times, all based on actual events and combatants. Under No Flag pits you as an inaugural member of Britain's SBS Special Forces during Operation Albumen. Norless tells of a mother and daughter fighting together in the Norwegian resistance, and in Trier, you play as a fresh recruit of France's Senegalese Triers during Operation Dragoon. The creativity and variety of Battlefield 5's War Stories is ultimately a step back from Battlefield 1. While the diverse set of characters and scenarios provides a surface level of intrigue, the writing is shallow, occasionally not even making sense, and characters simplistic. Each story's characters fight more than just a war. Dame, Trier's main character, fights racism, prejudice, and regret over the loss of his comrades. Under No Flag's Billy Bridger combats shame of his criminal history and finds redemption in fighting for Great Britain. Solvay and Norlis confronts the emptiness, though utmost importance, of an unknown sacrifice. It's this theme that powers Battlefield 5, of the most overlooked, forgotten heroes of World War II fighting battles history may not celebrate as much, but were no less important to the war effort. But where Battlefield 1 balanced a much wider array of gameplay and tone, going so far as charming apocrypha in some cases, Battlefield 5 for the most part takes itself seriously. The stories are straightforward, predictable predictable and single-minded of purpose. They tell of heroic deeds, but fail to break away into anything substantially original or deep. While a few linear sequences exist, the bulk of these levels is more open-ended, giving you different options on how to approach and complete objectives. You use binoculars to scout out enemy camps, plan your attack, and move accordingly. What's always been my biggest frustration when it comes to Battlefield single-player modes is the series' disconnect between what makes it famous and what the single-player attempts. Battlefield is known for large-scale combat fought with an assortment of weapons and vehicles and across an assortment of terrain, and throughout its history, Battlefield's single-player has been stubborn to reflect this. Battlefield 5 is no exception. Open-ended and multipath levels quickly feel empty and underdeveloped. You can take out enemies silently if you want, but it's all done under a flimsy, primitive, and downright bad stealth system. And for all of Battlefield's vehicles and versatility, you'll spend nearly the entire game as a one-man infantry squad, going from German camp to German camp, blowing up baddies and completing objectives. These missions play out like a very poor man's Far Cry. Unlike Battlefield 1, where you'd take command of different vehicles and pilot them in different scenarios, there's little attempt to introduce any variety into these large, empty levels. The single player is about as standard a shooter as they come. There's one mission where you can grab a German Stuka and use it to complete objectives. The mission doesn't tell you can take a plane, so you can definitely miss it, but it's there. This is really disheartening because I see no reason for the lack of innovation in Battlefield single player. The intro sequence is a montage of different large-scale battles on the ground, across a desert, and in the skies. It's epic and huge and exciting. I got chills commanding a Tiger tank against an allied advance and diving a BF-109 into an oncoming enemy bombing run. But you'll spend the rest of the game sprinting or driving around an open map playing a very rudimentary FPS, much better versions of which you'll feel like you've played before. Trier gets the closest to matching the multiplayer's massive multi-tiered battles, if only for a few minutes. Trier's beginning act portrays a massive assault on German-held territory. It's a glimpse into what the single player could be if it had more ambition and spectacle. It also, unfortunately, happened to be the level where my micro-stuttering was the worst. Battlefield 5 acts as if telling deep, character-driven stories amidst huge battles is impossible, choosing instead to steer away from the franchise's strengths, building a very weak and forgettable single-player experience. Thankfully, what excitement is lost on Battlefield 5 single player, the multiplayer almost entirely makes up for. Much of the standard Battlefield multiplayer experience is there. Your 4 classic classes, Medic, Assault, Recon, and Support, all return. Gunplay feels great, semi-realistic ballistics make tank rounds and debris nearly fly off your screen. Weather effects are stunning, destruction is gorgeous, specifically aircraft destruction. Battlefield 5 takes full advantage of Frostbite 3. Audio and visual quality, outside of the problems I've already mentioned, are what we've come to expect from Battlefield. Customization is a little more robust in Battlefield 5 as well. Your company is your collection of cosmetics and equipment. The assortment of outfits and camouflage you can throw on your troops is an appreciated addition to the series, even if there are deeper systems out there. Classes, weapons, and vehicles each come with their own upgrades and levels. Weapons have different kinds of sights, scopes, and paint jobs, sometimes changing the weapon's shape too. Both weapons and vehicles have specializations, perks that'll upgrade anything from weapon accuracy to making turrets spin faster on tanks. Each vehicle and weapon has a specialization tree tied to them specifically, allowing you to tune them to your liking. The more you use a weapon or vehicle, the higher the level gets and the more you unlock for it. Some of the stuff you unlock is kind of silly, stuff like different colored iron sights, which I'm not sure makes all that much of a difference. So again, it may not be the most in-depth customization system, nor the most original, but it's effective and works fine. The elephant in the room is microtransactions, which Battlefield 5 will include sometime in the near future. There are 2 types of currency, company coins and Battlefield currency. You accumulate company coins by playing the game, leveling up, completing challenges, etc., and you use them to purchase cosmetics and upgrades. Battlefield coins will be Battlefield 5's premium currency and only used for cosmetic items. I fervently believe that microtransactions are not essential to keeping massive AAA publishers like EA alive and afloat. I understand the gaming industry's economy is tough, especially for smaller developers, but I have a hard time believing EA needs microtransaction revenue to keep the lights on. I don't think it's unreasonable to speculate that if Battlefield 5 didn't have microtransactions, some of the cosmetic items up for purchase would be much cheaper. In about 12 hours of multiplayer, I'd estimate I've collected somewhere around 15-ish thousand coins. Items in the store cost anywhere from 2,800 coins to more than 14,000, so I do hold this to Battlefield 5's detriment. If you want microtransactions to sell, you need to make them useful, and that means limiting something about the game. Battlefield 5 includes Conquest, the staple Battlefield multiplayer mode which is as good as it's ever been, a collection of smaller infantry-focused modes for fans of more condensed fighting, and the reimagined Grand Operations, all set on great maps. Designed to make holding objectives important and keeping the battle dynamic, there are 8 diverse maps with different mixes of terrain, layouts, and vehicles. As opposed to Conquest, I've actually found Grand Operations to be a little bit of a letdown. Operations were introduced in Battlefield 1 as a light simulation of trench warfare. It's an elongated battle of attrition for the same piece of land, attackers capturing small chunks of the map a round at a time, and if attackers were successful enough, the map would change entirely. Battlefield 5's Grand Operations are structured similarly but include different types of objectives and spawn systems. No matter which team wins, objectives and sometimes the map changes between rounds, which I feel ruins that great desperate feeling of a battle of attrition Battlefield 1 did really well. At the beginning, attackers spawn in aircraft and actually choose when to jump out of the plane. There are a few issues you'll notice pretty quickly. After landing, attackers must plant bombs on enemy ordnance to advance. The problem is, attackers only get a few bombs to plant, meaning anyone on the attacking team can pick them up and go anywhere. As far as I can tell, besides dying, there's no way for the bomb carrier to drop the bomb or give it to someone else. If the bomb carrier isn't working within the team or is unaware of the objectives or just doesn't care about the objectives, the setup can get really aggravating. To compensate for the attacker's bomb limit, defenders don't know the bomb's location unless they're dropped, allowing attackers to dictate which objectives they assault and forcing defenders to react. Whether this is poor game design or just a reality of objective-based multiplayer is up for debate. But Battlefield has handled modes like this differently in the past. Battlefield 1's Rush was virtually the same mode, but it allowed anyone to plant a bomb on the objective, a style I think I prefer. I'm not sure if Grand Operations really take advantage of that paratrooper mechanic either. It doesn't take a lot to destroy the planes, and you're a visible and easy target on the way down, so there's no real benefit to trying to jump behind enemy lines into enemy territory. As we discussed in those bomb sequences, you can only complete objectives if you are carrying a bomb, which spawn on the ground. So not only is jumping behind enemy lines risky, it also has limited effect, which defeats the entire purpose of the spawn system to begin with. You'd be better spawning as you normally would, on the ground. With regards to gameplay itself, Battlefield 5 reworks and tweaks numerous core gameplay mechanics in subtle, yet innovative and brilliant ways. The 4 classes work more closely together, their abilities weaved into phenomenal squad play that emphasizes how those abilities coexist, and rewards teamwork and coordination more than ever. Hop in a game, and the first thing you might notice is that you can't withstand as much damage as you can with previous entries, nor do you carry as much ammo, making firefights more lethal and conserving ammo more important. In a somewhat strange comparison, Battlefield 5's health is similar to From Software's Bloodborne. When you take damage, your health only partially regenerates. You need bandages, which every class starts with, to get back to full health. And even as your health recharges, it won't charge fast enough to save you in the middle of a firefight. The end result is a Battlefield that feels relatively close to the franchise's previous hardcore game type. Limited health and ammo makes staying around ally, medic, and support classes essential to taking and holding objectives. All classes can revive fellow squad mates, which takes a few tense seconds. Medics, however, revive vastly quicker and can heal any downed teammate, not just members of their own squad. Medics also distribute more of those handy health packs, which will save you in a pinch. Ammo can be picked up off downed enemies and teammates, but if your squad is isolated or holed up in a building or base, you'll need support to resupply. The support class also has the ability to build fortifications faster than the other classes. Fortifications are a new and rather simple addition to Battlefield, and then their simplicity is genius. Fortifications are built in predetermined areas, reinforcing windows, creating a wall of sandbags, or building makeshift walls to create cover and better firing positions. Some bases even have buildable health and ammo stations. Physically building these fortifications works the same way reviving teammates does, taking time and leaving you defenseless, but at the benefit of making objectives much easier to defend. Fortifications can change the entire layout of battles. Well-built and defended objectives mean if the enemy team has a tough time taking a base, they might need to focus pushes or even take vehicles away from other places on the map to help with stronger attacks. As you may have already guessed, fortifications are a bit of a double-edged sword. If you take an objective and fortify to the teeth, losing it means you just gave the enemy a well-built base that could be difficult to assault. A single, well-coordinated squad working together, communicating, and taking time fortifying can make a massive difference. This has always been true with Battlefield. Single squads of 4 can change the course of a battle that includes more than 50 players, and Battlefield 5 has only reinforced that capability. Fortifications aren't indestructible, vehicles make quick work of them, and the assault class has explosives and anti-vehicle weapons that'll easily take them out. Taking an objective, fortifying it, and keeping the enemy at bay is immensely satisfying, a natural and intuitive progression of Battlefield's mechanics that works extremely well. Another mechanic that's undergone a change is spotting. In previous Battlefields, pressing Q marked enemies, putting a symbol above their head and making their position known to all teammates. Now, only the Recon class is able to temporarily mark enemies. For everyone else, Q marks a static point on the map, marking a position rather than tagging an enemy. This means if you see and mark an enemy, you'll need to communicate with your teammates what you saw and if they were on the move. I really love this change for a few reasons. You won't be required to spam Q all the time, which is nice, but more importantly, it allows for better flanking and easier positioning. One enemy spotting you doesn't mean the entire enemy team can lob random shots your direction hoping for a hit. Smoke grenades now work exceptionally well for covering objective pushes or crossing ground that lacks cover. Also, giving Recon the ability to spot enemies makes a class I've always thought was useless much more useful. Through the years in Battlefield, a sniper's usefulness with regards to team play was extremely limited in most cases. The amount of health players had meant surviving a shot from a sniper was completely doable, and the generally slower weapons they used made taking objectives and competing with faster firing weapons difficult. With spotting, however, Recon has an extremely useful job that can be a huge help to their entire team. Every class in Battlefield 5 has an important job to do, and they all lean on one another to perform their jobs. This squad dependence leads all the way up to squad leaders themselves. In addition to marking objectives, squad leaders use points accumulated by their squads for call-ins. Ammo drops, anti-tank vehicles, and devastating rockets are all abilities squad leaders have at their disposal. Situational awareness is key for squad leaders, knowing the best times to save points for a rocket or spend fewer points on a powerful anti-tank vehicle whose use might be rigidly specific but extremely effective. Like fortifications, the right call-in at the right time can change the entire layout and direction of a match. Vehicles themselves are far more diverse than they were in Battlefield 1, closer to the modern era vehicles of Battlefield 3 and 4, though obviously lacking their technological advancements. Vehicles work better alongside infantry, supporting pushes and targeting enemy vehicles. Like infantry, their ammo is limited. Tanks only have so many shots, and bombers so many barrages before they'll need to resupply. Between light tanks, battle tanks, fighters, and bombers, a brilliant system of checks and balances appears. A good bomber can really frustrate slower tanks, and a good fighter can take out the slower bombers. Of course, hop in an anti-aircraft gun, some of which you can hitch to vehicles and move around the map, and fighters will have a tougher time. And countering those AA guns won't be a challenge for infantry or light tanks. All of these elements working together or competing against one another is a magnificent sight, and each element can substantially contribute to your team's success. Vehicles control really well, specifically aircraft. Slow down enough and you'll feel gravity kick in, dragging your plane to the ground. Making sharp turns in a dogfight is obviously a must, and you'll need to manage your speed to keep off the ground. Vehicles will take damage in different areas. A tank can be immobilized from damage to its tracks, or an airplane's wings might take heavy damage mid-flight, and the vehicle's control will be affected by this. Allies and Axis teams have different sets of vehicles too, lending a decent dose of asymmetry to gameplay. Germany's tanks, for example, are a little more powerful, but the Allies' tanks are more versatile. Only so many vehicles are allowed on the map at a time, and the stronger tanks will really make an impact. Seeing Germany's Tiger tank encounter the Allies' Churchill Mark VII not only is a great show, but also an incredibly tense shootout. In that scenario, the last tank standing is probably going to be the strongest ground vehicle on the battlefield, making the encounter important for either team to win. If separated, I would probably grade the multiplayer either an A or B, and the single player probably a D. But evaluating Battlefield 5 requires reconciling its excellent multiplayer with one of the weakest single player modes the series has seen in a long time. So for the product as a whole, I feel giving Battlefield 5 our C grade is adequate. Anyone hoping for a deeper, evolved version of War Stories is going to be disappointed. If you're uninterested in single player, however, I believe Battlefield 5 is completely worth a purchase right now. The multiplayer is the best it's been in a long time. Personally, I haven't had this much fun with Battlefield multiplayer since Bad Company 2. Even with Battlefield 5's faults, I find myself greatly looking forward to jumping into Conquest, learning the maps better, and getting strategies down with my squad mates. And a few small revisions to operations would go a long way as well.